When you think of Darkstalkers, who's the first character you think of? Actually, no, don't answer that. We all know the answer. So, who's the second character you think of? For some people, it might be Dimitri, it might be Jeddah, hell, it might even be Donovan. But for me at least, and I know I'm not alone on this, that character is Felicia. Felicia is a cheerful Catwoman who was taken in as a youth by a nun named Rose. After Rose's passing, Felicia left her town in hopes of becoming a music star. Felicia, being mostly a pacifist, wanted to bridge the gap between humans and Darkstalkers like herself, and thought that bringing both species happiness through music was one way to go about it. Felicia's design is based on the Baka Neko, a creature in Japanese folklore that begins life as a cat, but gains supernatural abilities as they age, such as being able to shapeshift into a human. Former Capcom producer Alex Jimenez stated in an interview that his initial proposal for the character was to be based on the African werepanther. But the design team in Japan sent back designs of an adorable white kitty person, which ended up leading to her final design. Initially, Morrigan was intended to be the game's cute character and Felicia the one with sex appeal, but that ended up getting switched around during the concept phase, probably when the aforementioned drafts from the design team were presented. Felicia's birth year is listed in Darkstalkers as 1967, a nod to the 1967 Edward Field poem Curse of the Catwoman, wherein a man falls in love with a Transylvanian Catwoman. Felicia's been in the Darkstalkers games from the very beginning, appearing in every entry. Felicia's design in particular stands out to me because of how it contrasts with the darker, more macabre designs of the cast, and this goes for her backstory too. While some characters like Donovan or Jeddah have pretty tragic or dark backgrounds, Felicia adds some much needed levity to the Darkstalkers cast, and at least in my opinion, is part of what makes her one of the series' most enduring characters. By the end of the third and to this day final canonical entry of the series, Vampire Savior, Felicia goes on to found an orphanage named Felicity House, built as another way for her to help bring happiness to people that need it. Felicia's first appearance in the Versus games was in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, as one of 3 additional Darkstalkers newcomers joining Morrigan, who was returning from the first game. Her voice actor in Marvel 2 is Kei Araki, who also provided her voice in all Darkstalkers games up to that point. Kei Araki is no stranger to voice acting, having provided the voice of Chibiusa in Sailor Moon and Hikari in Digimon, among various other roles. She also temporarily provided the voice for Usagi herself in Sailor Moon, in the handful of episodes where she had laryngitis. All that said, let's get started. Felicia doesn't work as well here as she does in her home series as a general jack-of-all-trades character with mostly great matchups, but there's some merit to using her on point in Marvel 2, as she has some pretty useful tools. She has some great hyper combos, one of which is a fantastic punish on assist calls, and is generally one of the faster characters in the game. But she's reliant on meter being available for those assist punishes, and her damage output on its own isn't that great. First off is her wall cling, which can be done by pressing back when jumping near a wall. Felicia will cling to the wall and slowly begin sliding down before leaving off. You can have Felicia jump off at any time by letting go of back. This is a great tool for escaping the corner. Felicia also has a command normal, Kitty Slash, which is done by pressing back and heavy kick. Her first special move is Rolling Buckler, done with a quarter circle forward and any punch. This comes from the first Darkstalkers game, and in Marvel 2, Felicia can cancel this into one of 3 follow-ups depending on the button pressed. The first follow-up is Neko Punch, done with light punch during Rolling Buckler. This is an advancing punch. The second is Rolling Uppercut, done with heavy punch. This one actually comes from the Darkstalkers games as well. The third is Rolling Slide, done with any kick button. Next up is Sand Splash, done with a quarter circle forward and kick. She's also had this one since Darkstalkers 1. Next up is Cat Spike, done with a Dragon Punch motion and punch. This one comes from Vampire Savior, the third Darkstalkers game. If you haven't played Vampire Savior, well, play Vampire Savior. It's a good game. Dragon Punch with a kick motion gives you Felicia's Delta Kick. This one can be done in the air and is a great mobility tool for Felicia. She's had this one since Darkstalkers 1. Felicia's command grab is Hellcat, done with a half circle back motion and any kick. This one's also from Darkstalkers 1. Felicia's first hyper combo is Dancing Flash, done with a quarter circle forward and 2 punches. This one first appeared in Darkstalkers as her SP or a special power move. Next up is Super Sand Splash, done with a quarter circle forward and 2 kicks. This covers the bottom of the screen and comes out extremely fast, making it an incredibly good move for punishing your opponent's assist calls. Felicia's third hyper combo is Please Help Me, done with a quarter circle back and 2 kicks. This one comes from Darkstalkers Revenge, the second Darkstalkers game. Actually, let's stop for a sec and talk about her friends here. So, Felicia also has a pack of similar Catwomen that she travels with that all also happen to have musical talent, and will jump in to help fight if necessary. Huge thank you to Ballad of Aeon on Twitter for hooking me up with the scans in the Darkstalkers graphic file art book, which contains this information. This video would have taken a lot longer to come out if not for their help. Grace is the oldest and typically wears her hair in a ponytail. She was born in Utah and is the most adept at shapeshifting in the human form of the group. Alto was one of the younger members and was previously kept as a pet by a wealthy family until escaping into the wilderness, where she was then saved by Grace. Alto is the member that comes out during Felicia's Kitty Helper attack, which we'll get into a little later on. Lucy was a member of a traveling circus, but left when the only compassionate human that she knew passed away. She's very distrusting of humans and wears a bandana, at least most of the time. Nana and Mimi are twins that were born in Hong Kong, raised in Japan, but accidentally got mixed up with cargo on a ship used for smuggling goods and ended up in the USA, where they were taken in by an elderly couple. Nano is a younger member who befriended Nana in the mountains behind the latter's house. She likes to hide in a ball, showing up in one of Felicia's win poses in the Darkstalkers games. Nano's ball animation there is a shout out to the opening of Saze-san, an anime adaptation of the Yonkoma comedy manga of the same name. It actually, to this day, holds the world record for the longest running animated series in the world, having began airing in 1969 and continuing to this day, far eclipsing even The Simpsons' legendary run. Pico is the youngest and wears her hair in a braid. She lived in an orphanage originally, but sought out Felicia after seeing one of her performances and being inspired. In Vampire Savior specifically, Grace, Lucy, Nano, and Pico are who comes in and pulverizes your opponent when Felicia uses Please Help Me. The same is true for Marvel too, but interestingly enough, Grace and Lucy get slight redesigns, with Lucy in particular sporting shorter bangs and no bandana. Moreover, Nano and Pico have been actually aged up some, looking a lot taller than they did in Vampire Savior, and with different hairstyles at that. They also seem to be pretty obviously traced over some of Morrigan and Lilith's sprites from Vampire Savior. Felicia can also loop Please Help Me in the corner for as long as you have meter. After successfully hitting your opponent with it, do an off-the-ground crouching light kick and immediately cancel into Please Help Me. Felicia will more than likely be pushed back during the first few frames of the next rev of the loop, so as soon as the super ends you want to quickly dash up, use a quick OTG crouching light, and cancel it into Please Help Me again. Felicia also has a corner infinite done by repeatedly comboing her launcher in the rolling uppercut, but this is deceptively tricky to pull off, and truthfully, I'm really bad at doing it. Like a lot of other characters, Felicia has a far easier, far more reliable infinite that specifically works on Sentinel. Felicia's first assist is Delta Kick. Her second assist is Sand Splash. And her third assist is Cat Spike. Here are all of Felicia's colors. Her light kick color is her medium punch color from Vampire Savior. Felicia returned in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, being announced alongside Dante, Deadpool, and Captain America. Felicia actually kinda found herself in a funny predicament during the pre-release period of Marvel 3. Being a scantily clad 3D rendered Catwoman in a T-rated fighting game, Capcom was pretty limited with what they can show of her in promotional material, so she's usually out of focus or partially obscured in most promo art featuring her for the game. On the game's website, she, along with Morrigan, were the only characters whose renders weren't fully shown on the site. You only got zoomed in images of their faces. For Felicia in particular, this actually ended up extending to the vanilla release's CG trailer featuring her as well. If you ever wondered why she spends the entire trailer riding around on Hagar's back, aside from it looking adorable, it was also to have her in the trailer without likely pissing off the ESRB. Honestly, pretty creative way to go about it. Another odd thing, and this actually applies to Marvel 2 as well, is that Felicia's eye color has been weirdly inconsistent. Her 2D sprites all show her eye color is green, and at least in the first two games, the character art is in line with this as well. However, starting with Vampire Savior, she'd occasionally be shown with blue eyes. This was the same for her art in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as well, though games like Pocket Fighter and even Capcom Fighting Evolution retained the green eyes in her art. For her promotional renders in Marvel 3, they seem to have settled on a bluish-green eye color for her. But her in-game model pretty definitively has blue eyes. It doesn't bother me at all, but I've seen others peeved by it, and I do wonder why the inconsistency exists. Fun footnote here, Felicia's Ultimate Marvel 3 render seems to recreate her character art from the first Darkstalkers game. That's a neat nod. Felicia's theme in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is an arrangement of her theme from Vampire Hunter. Vampire Hunter tends to be the game with the most iconic themes for the characters that have been in all three Darkstalkers games, so it's no surprise that that held true for Felicia. Her English voice actor in Marvel 3 is GK Bose. She's done VA work in anime and video games before, and as far as Capcom games go, is probably best known as the English voice for Laura in Street Fighter V. Felicia also gets a new Japanese voice actor in Marvel 3 as well, Kana Asumi, who's done a good bit of voice work in her career as well. Both voice actors to this day still appear to be the primary voice actors for Felicia, providing both the English and Japanese voices respectively for Felicia's appearance as Ruiner Felicia in Teppen. Look, I've never played Teppen, but is that Felicia in a Ruiner Gigante outfit? That's badass. I wonder what the story behind that is. Someone in the comments, please enlighten me. This time around, Felicia gets a few new tricks that she didn't have in Marvel 2, most of which are from Vampire Savior. She still has her wall cling, which functions exactly as it did before. She gets a new OTG command normal, Toy Touch. This one comes from Vampire Savior. Toy Touch is interesting in that the move itself isn't special cancelable, but it is jump cancelable. So if you're fast enough, you can use Toy Touch after a hard knockdown and very quickly do a Tiger Knee Dancing Flash since you can still super cancel during pre-jump frames. This has very tricky timing however, and Felicia has a more reliable way to self-OTG in the Dancing Flash that I'll talk about a bit later. She retains Kitty Slash as a command normal as well. Pressing any attack in the special button has Felicia initiate Cat and Mouse, which is a side switch dash around the opponent Felicia performs that has some invulnerability. This seems at least loosely based on her ability to freely cross up the opponent with her dash in the Darkstalkers games. Down, down, and heavy attack initiates EX charge, which allows Felicia to freely build meter.
Level 1.
This is taken directly from Vampire Savior. Some of Felicia's normals can combo into this, so it has double utility as a quick cancel for normals that otherwise have long recovery frames. Rolling Buckler is back and performed with a quarter circle forward. It has the same follow-ups as it did in Marvel 2. Neko Punch comes out when you tap light attack. Rolling Slide is for a medium attack. And the Rolling Uppercut is with heavy attack. Delta Kick is slightly changed in that it's now a reverse Dragon Punch in attack instead of a standard Dragon Punch. It does, however, now have ground bouncing properties. She still has her Hellcat command grab with half circle back and attack. Cat Spike is done with a Dragon Punch and attack. The medium and heavy versions can ground bounce. Sand Splash is now a charge motion, done by holding back, then tapping forward in attack. This hits OTG and is generally her most reliable way to OTG pickup in the Dancing Flash. If you're doing this from an air combo, make sure to start buffering the charge as soon as you hit the opponent back to the ground and step back a bit. If she's too close, the opponent will be able to tech out of the OTG. Speaking of Dancing Flash, that's her first hyper combo. Kitty Helper is new to Marvel vs. Capcom, but was her Dark Force ability in Vampire Savior. Dark Force was a mechanic in that game that essentially functioned as unique install supers across the cast. Felicia's allowed her to summon Alto, who does a leaping body slam attack anytime Felicia presses an attack button. This can set up some nasty unblockables. Please Help Me is now upgraded to Felicia's level 3. Interestingly enough, Grace, Lucy, Nano, and Pico all retain their Marvel vs. Capcom 2 redesigns, though Alto is still the same as in Vampire Savior, probably because she kind of has to be for Kitty Helper to work the way it does. Felicia's first assist is Rolling Slide. Her second assist is Sand Splash. Her last assist is Cat Spike. Here are all of Felicia's colors. Her second color is based off of her light kick color in Vampire Savior. Color 3 is based off of her 3 kicks color in Vampire Savior. And color 4 is her heavy kick color from that game with the white hair swapped out for black. Probably coincidence, but the black and red calls to mind Elektra for me. According to Capcom, her 5th color is meant to be a tribute to the many redheads in the Marvel universe. Her 6th color is her medium punch color from Vampire Savior. Felicia, in my opinion, has one of the coolest alternate costumes in the entire game, and honestly, it's a pretty deep cut. This costume transforms her into Yellow Iris, one of the main characters of Capcom's last traditional coin-op beat-em-ups, Battle Circuit. At the point in time Ultimate Marvel 3 released, this was even more of an obscure nod because Battle Circuit had never actually had a home release at that point. In fact, it didn't get one until 2018's release of the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, with the game's marketing and even packaging highlighting that it was the first time it and Armored Warriors were getting home releases. Yellow Iris herself actually looks like she may have been inspired by some of the earlier concept designs for Felicia, and it's not the first time the design similarities have been acknowledged by Capcom either. Yellow Iris cameos in Felicia's Capcom Fighting Evolution ending. Here are all of Felicia's character interactions.
Get ready to brawl. Combo KO. You win.
Let's play together again, puppy.
Ready?
Ready for my close-up.
Looking good. Keep it up.
Live and let die.
Finished already? Thanks for the pictures.
This line might be a reference to Pocket Fighter, where Felicia's aim in that game was to transition from theater into film.
Wow! I love your claws.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Live and let die.
And here's Felicia's ending. Felicia is definitely one of Capcom's most memorable fighting game designs. Darkstalkers in general really is just a masterclass in character design. Having mostly Western-inspired monster design interpreted through the lens of a Japanese fighting game developer was such an inspired idea for a fighting game series, and doubly so for how ahead of its time that idea was. It was only 3 years removed from Street Fighter II's initial release after all. Felicia is absolutely one of those designs you can just look at and instantly discern, yup, that's a Capcom character, alright. And I think that's at least part of the reason why she remains popular to this day. Felicia's had cameos in a bunch of other games outside of the aforementioned Pocket Fighter and Tekken. She was a playable character in Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo and in SNK vs. Capcom Match of the Millennium. And before anyone asks, yes, I'll be covering that game as well as SVC Chaos. Eventually. She's in Namco Cross Capcom as a pair unit with King from Tekken, and also shows up later in the series in Project Cross Zone 2 as a solo unit. That's going to wrap it up for this video. As always, thanks for watching and supporting. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already and would like to see more. Stay safe, and I'll catch you next video. Take care.